menstrual hygiene management program that has picked up at a very brisk pace in the past few months. We have been receiving an immense amount of support and interest from the audience. We are so grateful for that. Please do keep supporting us. So if you have come across any of the social initiatives that have been undertaken for the welfare of the society, you'll notice, if you read between the lines, you'll notice that most of them would have sprung up from some personal experience of a person. Either a person would have personally underwent something, or he or she would have seen people undergo something, and it would have had an emotional impact on that person, a lasting emotional impact. Hence, such revolutions, such social initiatives begin. The same is the case with Redefine. Redefine, if you notice, it is not some typical regular program or a project that you come across. Redefine is very different because Redefine is your story and mine. Redefine is the story of all the women across the world. And if you ask me, I would go out on a limb and I would say that Redefine is actually the story of men too, because women are part of men's lives. So this is Redefine. And if at all you have a question, why Redefine? I come across many people who still ask why feminism, why menstrual hygiene management programs, and so on. So if at all this question arises, just please have a recap of the very short episode of trauma that women have to undergo. Suppose we are at a public place and all of a sudden we get our periods. There is such an episode of trauma that women undergo. One is because of the lack of proper toilets, that is one. And we have the lack of proper menstrual products, the access to those menstrual products. And above all of this is the fact that even if I get access to the menstrual product that I'm looking for, what if I stain my dress before I go into the restroom, before I could have the actual product, And also, if people see me carrying my menstrual pad, the sanitary pad, I don't know how we drew a very strong parallel between menstrual products, a sanitary pad, and a weapon, a gun or something, because both of these are carried with in such a discreet manner, in a very, very secret way. There is a huge deal of silence around this. So this is basically why we have Redefine, guys, because the very goal of Redefine is all women across the world. When I say all, I mean all. So all women, irrespective of the social class, irrespective of their financial background, irrespective of the regional barriers, everything, especially women from remote places, the so-called rural and remote areas, all of these women should have equal access to all the menstrual products that are available, and they should be allowed to bleed with pride. So this is the primary motive of Redefine. So this is Redefine. And before we move on to the first panelist, also before we move on, I'm very excited about the panelists today, because all of the panelists are experts in their own field. All of them are adepts in their own field. So we have a very diverse panel today. So I'm looking forward to listen to them. But before that, I have one crucial piece of announcement to make. I take privilege in announcing that we are calling out for the volunteers for Redefine. So you can sign up. When you become the volunteer for Redefine, you know what you're going to walk into. So this will be a journey full of excitement, full of responsibilities, a journey full of fun. So this is going to be something you want, especially if you're in your college or in your school days, because this is going to be really exciting. So you'll be pillars in various places. So you can become a part of the core team of Redefine. So if you wish to sign up, I'll just put on the official mail ID of Redefine. So you know what to do. You just go and convey your consent along with your basic details. So let us move on to today's session. The very first panelist will be Ms. Manjulata Kalanidhi. So she's a senior journalist. She's the founder of the Rice Bucket Challenge. She's currently the editor of New Indian Express, Hyderabad. So I welcome you, ma'am. So the session is yours.
Thank you so much, Rajeshwari. Thank you for having me, everybody. So it's nice to see so many of you on a Sunday evening, which is typically when we would be, wasting our time surfing the net or whatever. But great to have all of you. So today I'll be very briefly giving you the perspective of how media has handled, the menstrual hygiene management. I can tell you, I like Rajeshwari has just introduced. I am a senior journalist. I've been in this profession for over 20 years, and I've seen how the media has handled menstrual hygiene. In fact, there was no word called menstrual hygiene for a long, long time. I must say that this very term has sort of made inroads into our vocabulary just about, say, 5 or 6 years. I would say that it started with social media. Prior to that, in fact, there were articles about menstrual hygiene and menstrual management, but it was largely confined to health articles. It was more to do with what to do when you find cysts while you are bleeding, or what to do when you miss your period, what to do, whatever those kind of extremely technical and medical and healthcare related things. But with the advent of social media, which is, say, I guess we could say 5 to 6 years from now, which would be 2014, 2015, it was around that time that the very word called menses, periods, period blood, these words actually started rolling into our vocabulary. Maybe it coincided with the feminist movement in India, and I'm talking about the Indian perspective. Maybe it coincided with the feminist movement. It coincided with how we all had a voice, and how there were a lot of women's groups that came up in Facebook and Twitter. That's when I started seeing, things, people discussing about periods normally, like you would discuss food, like you would discuss TV, like you would discuss politics. It was such a welcome change to see how people were normalizing conversations on periods. Here, I would like to say that even in the media, we started discussing. In fact, I should credit social media for actually giving a fillip to the media to cover these things. I can tell you that around the year 2015 or 2016, there is a group on Facebook. I think they have a website too. They're called Feminism in India, FII. And Feminism in India actually has, in a website, they actually have an entire section dedicated to menstrual hygiene and menstrual management. How do we talk? How do we discuss? What are the myths? What are rights? What are wrongs? Who should you seek help? What is normal? What is pain? There's so many myths. Everything was being talked about in a normal, regular discussion mode. That was when we also decided, the media, the mainstream, the traditional media decided that, okay, hey, so people are accepting about topics like this. Let's start discussing about menstrual hygiene, not just as a technical healthcare term, but as a social issue, as something that's part of this world. And that's how it began. So I remember writing about feminism in India, and I really loved how they actually were very instrumental in bringing about this change. You know how a few years ago you went to a pharmacy and asked for, you used to whisper and say, whisper, hey, just give us one packet. And it was no need, there was no need to do this hush hush kind of thing. So feminism in India, and the person who had Japlin Pasricha, she started this movement of let's talk about period. There was a hashtag called let's talk periods. And she used to conduct Twitter chats. People would come up and say very boldly, okay, I have my periods, or I just had my periods, or I have painful periods. And then they talked about what is menstrual health, what constitutes menstrual health, how do you manage, how do you make it a part of your life, how do you make it a part of your routine, what are the problems that you can discuss without flinching about it. So I remember doing that, and in the last 5 years, I used to manage the Hyderabad Express, which is the city supplement. I made sure that we did absolutely cover any stories about periods. And I personally remember doing stories about these two kids in a rural area near Hyderabad, and how schools are actually nominating young girls as volunteers who will find out who's having periods. Do they need extra help? Do they need a pad? How they would all come up with one pad each. They would put in pads in the class, so that nobody had to go and feel flinched and, oh my God, I'm going to my. So this is all, I think, a lot of positive and accepting social change has occurred in menstrual health management, and this is such an important part of the society. So first, I would like to say that social media has been a major contributor for this change, and then media has followed it up. And today, you'll find that all traditional and digital media do a lot of stories. We have like dedicated sections for for menstrual health management. So that's my perspective, and I hope that we will continue to write about it. And today, whoever the girls are, the women are, and the men, let's talk about periods. Let's normalize it. Let's write about it, talk about it, discuss, and make it a part of our life. Thank you, Rajeshwari.
Thank you, ma'am. It was a short but such an energizing session. So as you said, any movement, any social movement, it begins as a theoretical part. Then by people's force, it gets converted into an actual social movement, be it feminism, be it any movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, anything for that matter. From theory, it gets converted to social movement only by people's power. So I'm very happy to say that that is exactly what we are looking for in Redefine. That is exactly what we are looking to establish here, because this, we basically consider this as the people's movement. This has to be by the people and for the people. That is basically why we are trying to connect with as many people as possible. It was a beautiful session, ma'am. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
So we move on to our second panelist. So I request Dr. Ashish, who is the CEO, Metanoia Changing Mindsets. It's sir, I just wanted to compliment you on the name. This is such an intriguing and an interesting name. I was very impressed by the name. So he is the CEO, Metanoia Changing Mindsets. He is a business psychologist. He's a psychotherapist. He's a leadership mindset coach. So we are lucky to have him here. Sir, the session is yours.
Hi, thank you so much. Can I just have access for sharing the slide?
Yes.
Aditya, can you just help me out? You'll need to make me the co-host.
Raji, you can make the Dr. Ashish the co-host.
Yeah. Indu, can you do?
I couldn't able to do it actually for some reason.
Only the host can do it.
Okay,
just go to participants, click on my name, and just say make co-host. All right. Anyway, let's begin in the paucity of time. I'm just going to begin my timer for a 10-minute. All right. So good evening, everybody. Whichever part of the world you are. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Okay. Thank you so much. Is it visible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So good evening, everybody, once again. And I'm here to talk about the topic from a purely psychological perspective and mental health perspective. So like Rajeshwari introduced me, I'm a psychotherapist. I've been in this field for the last 22 years. I'm based out of Pune, and I deal a lot with teenagers and their mental and emotional well-being, apart from taking care of the business owners. So very quickly, the topic that has been given to me. So when we look at the entire menstrual cycle from a psychological perspective, there are two disorders that we primarily work with. One is the PMS, which everybody is aware of. And the second one now, which is growing, is called the PMDD. And trust me, you're not alone in this. 90% of the world's women population suffer from this at some point or the other in their lives. Okay, I'm just going to run through. So PMS, I think majority of the people are aware with. PMDD is something which is not very much spoken about over here. So I'm just going to focus a little bit more on it because it leans towards the mental and emotional well-being, which gets compromised a lot. Typical symptoms are, emotional liabilities, where we talk about irritability, anxiety, depression. A lot of things come along with this hormonal changes that are happening over here. Why mental health? Okay, why mental health is important? Because, like I say, the hormones in your body start playing around about a week before your due date, and they play a havoc till a week later after you have finished your due date. Some of the symptoms that we deal with as when you're going through the PMDC is in terms of mood swings, which is what basically everybody talks about. Irritability, anger, increased interpersonal conflicts. This is on the rise, and we are seeing this on the rise because last 2 years people have been kind of confined in their houses, and their interpersonal relationships have taken a beating, especially for the teenagers that are there. Depression, hopelessness, all these kind of things that are there. These are some of the things that are also experienced by some women and some girls over there. Decreased interest in activities. Okay, so from time to time, I'm supposed to admit people. Okay, lethargy, fatigability, lack of energy, appetite changing. All these are insomnia or hypersomnia. These are all the symptoms that women go through, apart from the bloating and weight gain and the other things that happen during this period. Okay. Now let's look at menstrual cycle and mental health together. That's the topic that I'm going to talk about more in this case. Why is it important? Because of the hormonal changes that are happening. Hormones play a major role during this period, and as the hormones, they affect your brain and they affect your emotions. So I normally say women are emotionally compromised during this period. Okay, they influence your mental health and they create problems for relationships in a larger way. Now, understanding is the only way that you can help yourself during this period. Okay, why you are feeling in a certain way, why you are feeling in a certain manner, why certain emotions, why certain things that you're going through. So once you understand, and that's why, when Rajshri approached me, I said, I would love to be a part of such a program where I can at least educate people, young boys and girls in the whole process about this. So we are here looking at how we can take care of our moods, how we can become aware of your cycles. I'm sure there are tons and tons of apps that you all are using also to, to track your cycle. So very quickly, what to look out for, in terms of your mental health, the emotional aspects of it. One is, please understand that this is a temporary phase. If you are going through a certain pattern, please identify that pattern and please try to break that pattern. For example, those who are in a relationship, you may break out or break away from your relationship at that point of time. The job that you may love, or if you're doing any work, you would desperately feel like quitting it for no rhyme or reason. Your inner critic becomes more and more active. Okay, for some people, they get into suicidal thoughts and the urge of self-harm increases. I recently was dealing with a 19-year-old girl who started cutting herself with a blade on both her arms, during this period because she was not able to manage herself emotionally. Day-to-day activities, like cooking or going for work or leaving the house, completely you are unable to cope up with that. Concentration goes for a toss during this period. And for some people, they experience palpitation and anxiety attacks. So these are some of the things that I normally say that you need to take care of during this period that are there. Okay, 1 second, just let me admit 2 or 3 people. So anyway, so this is just what I thought. Let me share with you in a quick nutshell in terms of what to look out for at a mental and emotional level. Now, having said all that, what do you need to do? If you have somebody at home whom you can express these things very openly, talk about it, great. If not, please seek professional help. Okay, go and see your therapist, go and see your doctor, go and see your gynec, whoever it is that you can confine in, and you can express these feelings in terms of what is happening to you. You know, while Manju was talking about it, you know, that we need more and more educate people. I would like to say at this point of time that my 19-year-old daughter, who's studying her second year BA psychology, helped me a lot in preparing this presentation also. So this is a father and daughter combination that has prepared this presentation. She from her perspective, I from my experience perspective. So if more and more people can discuss these things with their parents, especially even the males in the family, it would be great for you. At the end, I mean, I'm just ending my, I have just 2 minutes left. So at the end, I would just like to say this. Please be mindful about your emotions during this period. Don't take any rash decisions. Don't take anything in terms of which will damage your relationship specifically, because you become irritable, you go through anger and all these emotions that play havoc. I use the word, you know, when these hormones play tandav in your body, the emotions also play tandav in your mind. Please be aware of your patterns. That's the only way right now that you can deal with this whole process, is becoming aware of your own patterns. Once you're aware, then only you can take action about it. But if you're not aware about it, I'm sorry, you will not be able to take action about in those areas during that period of time. And that could lead to a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of relationship issues, a lot of fights among friends. Not everybody's going to understand. And I'm sure, you know, if you are irritable and people, I'm sure you don't like answering when someone says, oh, you're going through those days, huh? That's something which even the society has to learn to accept, in terms of, okay, women go through this period and we need to be more compassionate. We need to be more mindful about their actions. So Rajeshri, I think I've got a minute left. So if there is anything
Sir, you can take your time.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's equally divided amongst everybody. So I would not like to eat into Usha's time or Shisha's time. I can see her, you know, broadening her eyes over there and saying, okay, now keep quiet. But anyway, on the lighter note, please, at the cost of repeating myself, identify your psychological patterns. Okay, many a times these symptoms could also be in combination with other things, like if you are prone to depression, if you are prone to anxiety, if you're prone to panic or uncertainty, then definitely you need to see a therapist or you need to see a doctor, where your mental health can be taken care of in specifically those week, 10 days, whatever it is that you go through. So having said that, in the short period, okay, admitted. Okay. So within the short period that was given to me, I just thought, let me brush up on certain areas. Rajeshri, I'll be more than happy to share this presentation with you in case anyone wants it, because I've kind of, okay. Admit once.
So that would be great. You can share it with
so
me.
admitting people from time to time. Sorry, I have to take that 10 seconds. But anyway, back to you, Rajeshri. I'm making you host again. I hope the time that was given to me, I've been able to do justice with that. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Rajeshri, and all the best. Take care of your mind. That's all I will say. Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, sir. The very note that you ended the session with, take care of your mind. What kind of a wish it is, because usually we do not consider mental health to be as important as the physical health at all. We just consider the physical health. I mean, it's been on the mainstream always. We always tend to ignore the mental health of a person. So it was a very mind-blowing session, sir. And also, I loved the way you dealt with the practical issues we deal deal with. And also the way you mentioned normal conversation between a father and daughter, maybe between a brother and a sister, that makes a huge deal of difference
Absolutely.
that we want
Absolutely.
to establish, because
Absolutely.
basically change needs to begin at home. At home, if you start discussing these things, if you start normalizing menstruation, then it gets automatically accomplished in the society too. Loved
Correct.
your speech, sir.
Thank
It
you so
dealt
much.
with all the practical issues we deal with. Thank you so much. It was an
Pleasure is
enlightening
all
session.
mine.
So we are moving on to the third speaker for today, Miss Usha. She is a Hatha Yoga teacher. She is also a lifestyle counselor. She is the co-founder and teacher at Hatham Yoga Studio, Isha Foundation. The stage is yours, ma'am.
Thank you, Rajshri, and thank you, Redefine, for having me today on this platform. And I'm in great pleasure for sharing this today's session with the other panelists who are very successful and service-oriented. Hope my audio is clear.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. So coming into the topic, over the years of offering yogic practices and being a practitioner myself, I have experienced many women and youngsters, especially this number is increasing in the youngsters, college students these days, that they are constantly going through PCOD and irregular periods and long periods, heavy bleeding and menstrual cramps. There are very few in number who have very smooth periods these days, especially youngsters. So they are going through some menstrual issue or the other. So I would like to touch upon just a few fundamental aspects where, by bringing these little changes and adding in certain adoptable, applications in their day-to-day life can make their menstrual, cycle very smooth. So if you look at, this is all related with the lifestyle disorder. If you look at the youngsters today, they mostly consume the readily available processed store-bought foods, which have long shelf life. So what is it about these, readily available foods is it is heavily processed, less in fiber content, sodium rich, and it doesn't have much nutritional value, and it is not prepared fresh. Also, it is packed in plastic or aluminum, which is it is not good for the health. So having consumed all these kinds of foods which also have chemical, so every emotion that we go through has a chemical basis. So when you're having foods that are chemically loaded and less of nutrition, high in salt and all these things, so it definitely puts us into emotional imbalances, and it is a big task for the stomach to digest and process these foods. So another aspect is that today's meal, whatever the number of meals, 2, 3 or 4 meals that one takes, if all of it is 100% cooked. So when the food is cooked, it is less in enzymes. It loses the enzymes that is required for digesting and processing the food, and rich in sodium and also low on nutrition. So how to cut down on these, foods and take care of these things. And another important aspect is whoever comes to us with these issues, we teach them a certain practice which brings hormonal balance in the system. As rightly shared by Dr. Ashish, it's very, very important that the hormonal balance is maintained, especially during this time. So I urge all the youngsters to start cutting down on the readily available foods, and for the reasons that we have just discussed. And the food should always be consumed within 1.5 1.5 hours of preparation. So that kind of food is good for the system. So slowly start adopting this, cutting down on readily available foods, and consuming fresh food. Also, to cut down on salt. Salt basically is a preservative. So when you eat salt, foods that are rich in salt, the stomach gets, the tummy gets in, information that this is something to be preserved. So it finds it difficult to, process the food. So if the food is remaining in the stomach bag for a very long time, then it generates gastric issues, it generates heat, excess heat in the system, and leads to many physical and mental issues. So how to cut down on the salt is, one way is to include raw food in the diet. So raw food can be consumed in different forms, like in fruits, raw vegetables prepared as salads, and also in the sprouts form. Of these three variants of raw food, fresh food, raw food, the fruit meal should be taken separately. This one precaution one has to take. You do not club fruits along with any of your meal, like you're having breakfast or lunch or a dinner. Do not club it with that. The fruit meal should be taken separately. Now, any other vegetable salad or all these things can be taken along with your meal. So one way is to include raw food in your diet. At least 30 to 40% of your diet should be raw, following these norms of how to consume it. And the food is chewed properly, especially raw food should be chewed properly. And another way of cutting down on the salt is add salt to your food at the end of the cooking process and consume the food immediately after cooking. This can lower the consumption of salt in your food. So if these two aspects are taken care of, certain health can be seen during the menstrual time. And also another aspect is to follow and practice yoga on a daily basis. So to the practitioners that come to the participants that come to us, we teach them a practice called as Surya Kriya. This is the original form to what is popularly known around the world. So a practice called Surya Namaskar. This is the original form of it, Surya Kriya. So we offer this along with other meditation and breathing practices to our participants, and we have seen incredible changes. I can share a few with you if there is time. So one of a girl, an youngster who has just started working, finished her education, started working, came to me and she was discussing about her menstrual issues, and she came to me as a last resort. She tried few different things but didn't work. So I just, those were the initial days of my, yoga teacher career. So I was a bit skeptical, because she was my first participant in this regard. And when I offered this program to her, after a month, she sent me a mail saying that she came out of it in just about 4 to 5 weeks. And she's very happy, and she came to meet me after 2 months. I could see her skin glowing. She had acne that had gone, and she looked more lively, energetic after she came back 2 months later practicing this. And there is one instance where a lady 15 years of her periods, she never got it unless she used medicine, and I had taught her this particular practice. In 3 weeks, it is there on a website on Google, on Hattam reviews, you can find this. In just 3 weeks time, she got rid of this without medicine. On first time in her periods, she got her periods for the first time without using any medication. So there are any number of instances. There is one that I would like to share. A friend of mine who has long periods, about 7 to 10 days every time she gets it, and heavy bleeding. This is one thing I'm going to share to all of you, the remedy that I've given her. So there is one a tree, ancient tree that is like a banyan tree, people tree. This is a tree which is largely ignored and not known. This is called Medi Chettu in Telugu. I haven't Googled for the English name. You can Google it with this name. Those of you want it in the other languages. So this is a Medi Chettu. I just gave her these leaves, made a drink out of it. You just have to add these leaves to a boiling water and boil it for 5 minutes, let it set for another 5 minutes and just take it. Before 1 week, start 1 week of your periods, you start taking this, or even if you take it during your periods, the menstrual cramps will come down. I have seen this in many people. And for this friend of mine, not just the cramps, the same month, her long periods have come down. She just had 5 days of periods that particular month. And this is the 3rd month that she's going through now. And it continues to be the same. And she's taking this leaf, the decoction of this leaf regularly. So if you can allow me to share my screen, I have few pictures so that people can identify what this is.
Yes, ma'am, you can. I've made you the co-host.
Okay. So this is the leaf, how it looks like. It's a big tree, and this is called Indian fig. This is the ripened one. The seeds of this fruit, they are very good. They're very good they greatly help in strengthening the reproductive organs in women. So how to consume this? One is, I've mentioned about taking the leaf, making a kashayam out of it, a drink out of it. And the other way is to take the fruit directly. Sometimes if you have picked up fallen fruit, it might have insects. So you just have to check for the insects. If you're plucking it from a tree, it will not have insects. Another way is the raw fruit. When it is raw, it is green in color. Sorry. I'm not able to share the other picture. Okay, so when it is raw, it is green in color, double the size of a chickpea. You can make 2 preparations out of it. You just wash them, cut them into half or quarter pieces, steam them, steam cook. And with this steam cooked pieces, you can make a chutney. All of us know how to make a chutney, a regular one. You can add for binding and enhancing the taste. You can add grated coconut or roasted peanuts to it along with other ingredients. And also you can season these steamed pieces and add grated coconut at the end. So this both of them taste good in hot rice along with ghee. So this greatly helps in strengthening the the reproductive organ in women, and it also helps in the menstrual difficulties. And yeah, another thing is to practice yoga on a regular basis, which brings hormonal balance. This particular practice, Surya Kriya, brings hormonal balance. It reduces stress. It reduces anxiety and mood disorders, and it keeps the thought process in a good balance. So these are some of the things that I wanted to share today. Hope this helps. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It was a very refreshing session, actually. The very composed way of presenting the details in a very orderly manner. Also, all the practically useful tips that you shared. I think all the audience would be benefited from this. Also, to those of you guys who could not take a screenshot or something, this will be put up on the YouTube channel. It's called Healthex. So you can just have a look at the leaves and the tips that ma'am showed us. So yeah, proper food in itself can be the medicine. So very good point.
Can I make a note? Just one point I would like to mention.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. So this is an age-old practice. During menstrual time, women were given foods that are easy to digest. So if possible, during these 4 or 5 days of your periods, please avoid consuming non-vegetarian food, milk and milk products. When I say this, it is curd, milk, anything that is made out of milk other than buttermilk, ghee and butter, like paneer and other milk sweets. Also avoid sweets that are bought from outside, and you have to hydrate yourself during this time. I remember my mother giving me this during my periods. So what she used to prepare for me separately is rice. She would cook it along with green gram, and she would serve me hot. I would add, we have to add jaggery and ghee to it and have it. Yeah, it is boring to eat the same thing 4 days. You can also, add fruits, as we mentioned about raw food. You can add fruits, so you can have fruits, raw food, and other things along with this. So this way, it is very light on the stomach, and your energy is spent on keeping, mental and physical balance during this time. Also, it is, from puberty onwards, just before the puberty would hit, the girls were given sesame. This maintains Ushna in the body, Ushna balance in the body. So these days it is, largely lost, this knowledge. So I recommend everyone during the periods time to be on lighter diet, and see that you can include sesame also into your meals.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It was such a good tip, because even now I usually have sesame seeds during my menstruation period. So it helps actually. It does work practically. So thank you very much, ma'am. It was a wonderful session. So with this, we are moving on to the final speaker for today, Dr. Srisha. She is the Associate Professor in Sri Ramachandra Medical College, Porur. The stage is yours, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening, Rajeshri.
Good evening, ma'am.
On onset, I thank all the organizers to have making me a part of this webinar. Can I screen share?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I've made you the co-host.
Okay. Yeah, is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay. So after those excellent and diverse inputs from experts in different walks of life, okay, I mean, I've enjoyed listening to all those inputs from different people. So mine will be totally medical and the social aspect of this menstrual health. So first, I bring you greetings from Chennai. We are happy that the pandemic is settling here. So today I actually wanted to talk about these three things, like what is adolescence, and just an understanding of a normal cycle, and what are the common myths and facts that are associated with the menstrual cycle. So as we all know, that adolescent age is between 10 to 19 years. This is the age where a child grows to mature. It is the phase of turning of a childhood to adulthood, and it's featured generally, physically, by the appearance of secondary sexual characters, and it leads to complete sexual maturity. So this is like a very vulnerable period in a person's life, where they'll be physically, emotionally, socially very vulnerable. So a lot of care has to be taken during this age with every adolescent, pertaining to both mental and physical health. So there have been a lot of studies actually that have been conducted in these age groups, more or less, regarding the topic that is of interest today, that is the menstrual health topic. And if I admit, I think the screen is kind of moving out here. Okay, so a lot of people have been shown that they have never heard of sanitary napkins in the rural areas, and they have not been used to working with, dirty clothes till then. Okay, and they felt embarrassed and humiliated over restrictions. A lot of girls, and mostly in the family, the mothers were not very happy to know that the girls knew about menstruation before menarche, that is the start of the menstrual cycle. Okay, and most of them even miss schools on account of menstruation because of these side effects or small problems that they have, whether it is personally or due to the cultural taboos. Then they also feel scared that they might kind of have a leak or show off the menstrual problems, and they're also low on the self-confidence aspect during these days, and they're completely unprepared, actually, most of them. And some people do use still old cloths as absorbents, and some are even unaware of the importance of washing menstrual cloth. So finally, all this was accounted due to the not discussing regarding menstruation with these kids before. So this all shows that the importance of discussing this process of menstruation with the young girls is very important, as has been shown by menstrual awareness programs that have started to come in these days. So I think it should start at the family level first, with the mother. She should be more. The mothers have to be educated to be more open with the kids and start discussing it even before they when they come to the age of by 10. I think they should be knowing that there is something called menstrual cycle and what happens through, and they should not be learning this through other social media and other things. And maybe school level, I think the programs that are conducted, of course my daughter and all had a special program for the girls. These private schools are definitely organizing some sessions. I hope the convent schools also have these special sessions where they will be made aware of what is supposed to happen and how they have to deal with this. And of course community level programs like being taken up by these organizations. And what should be the content? That must be like the access, the use, and the disposal of all the products that are related to menstruation, of their use and how to dispose them. All this should be part of the discussion that needs to go with the menstrual awareness programs. So just to come to the part of the understanding of the menstrual cycle, I think a lot of them will be knowing that there will be just 7 days of menstruation. Of course, up to 7 days can be normal. Okay, and this is the time, it should be considered as a physiological process. A daily, a person has to urinate, has to go and have feces. That's the same way an unnecessary fluid from the body is being excreted outside. This is the same phenomena, like the menstrual blood, which is unnecessary, is being just sent out of the body. So why is not a urine culture a taboo? Why is not a motion culture a taboo? And why is a menstrual cycle considered a taboo? Okay, only thing, it is not voluntary. So you can't stop it, you can't control it. It has to go, and it goes on for 3 continuous days. And then it is not a regular affair, so that the people get used to what to do regularly. It comes once in a month, and they again have to start back preparing what to do for those 3 days, get ready for those 3 days, which might not be the regular time that's going to come every cycle. So just to understand the menstrual cycle, I've put up this what happens first 7 days if they are menstruating. The day 1 of the cycle is the day when they start menstruating. And from after the menstruation, the uterine lining generally gets thickened. Okay, and it just gets prepared for the ovulation that happens, the reproductive phase that starts. The ovulation, that is the ovum, gets released. Once the person starts menstruating, that means she's reproductively mature, that she can become pregnant anytime. Okay, and she has to understand that also. Okay, so once ovulation occurs, then the uterine lining gets even more thicker later after the ovulation time, and it gets prepared in case pregnancy happens. Okay. And when the pregnancy is not happening, automatically the hormone levels come down, and she starts shedding the excess pent up uterine thickening that has happened outside. Okay, and for a fresh room to be prepared actually in the uterus. Okay, so that is what happens during the menstrual cycle, and this is the process that needs to be understood, that every cycle happens. And what is normal? Okay, so first first, the girl needs to be explained that the first signs of puberty are this breast development and hair development in the axilla and the pubis. And generally, the first menarche or the first cycle will start only around 2 years after this development of the secondary sexual characters, as we call them. And a normal flow generally lasts for 2 to 7 days, and the mean being around 5 days. Okay, and she might need to change a menstrual pad around 3 to 4 times a day to maintain good hygiene. And there are aspects of premenstrual syndrome that have already been discussed by Dr. Ashish, and that need to be also addressed probably when so that need to be addressed and understood by the kid if she's having problems to deal with it. Okay? And the other thing that needs to be understood is during the first 2 years after menarche, you can't expect a girl to have a regular cycle. So it is only the development, the immature axis, we call the hormonal axis, you can say, which will slowly mature in the period of 2 years. And then that is when the periods start regularizing. So whenever initially in the first 2 years periods are irregular, there is not much need of concern. Okay, so then you have to stressing on the importance of menstrual hygiene. And why is hygiene important? Of course, we know that without a good hygiene, it can lead to lots of local infections. See, I have these kids coming in with local itching and local reactions to the whatever materials they're using, okay? And infrequent changing and infrequent cleaning because of whatever work pressure or school or wherever they are. So that is leading to a lot of discomfort in the vaginal area. Okay, and then later, I mean, if they are not able to change frequently and all, sometimes some kind of discharges they develop local infections. And if it is not treated at the right time, it might lead to some chronic problems like, of course, infertility. It is a far-fetched one when you start talking to an adolescent, I know, but maintaining menstrual hygiene will definitely have an effect on preventing some infections, local infections that might ascend up inside the uterus, because it is a passage that is directly from the uterus to the outside. So always it's better to have a clean atmosphere there. And then the question of what to use, how to use comes in, and then there is always the options and choices that are there. Like they still can use cloth. Of course, cloth is not something which is something to be taken off from the options. Cloth still can be used, and it is also depending on a personal choice. But then if the cloth is used, then they really have some work to do with it. They have to, that has to be properly washed and cleaned and then dried. And it should not be used continuously. It should be changed frequently, and it should not be too tough or a too thick material. Okay, and then of course regarding the genital hair, going for frequent shaving at the genital area because of this discomfort of having these menstrual cycles might lead to small kind of abrasions and all over the local parts like the labia or the genital parts, and this might also increase the chances of infection. So they need to be really careful when they're young and when they're doing all such things. As long as they can do something like trimming the hair around genitalia if it is very uncomfortable during cycles, which they can do. Okay, so these are some of the cloth pads that can be used, that are being already sold. Also these can be used, and these are also advocated, and and of course these are common things that are being used, the natural napkins, and these can be regularly used without causing any kind of irritation when they are used like a cotton pad. Okay, so like if they're cotton covered, I think that is the better thing, which in my opinion, because I have seen these girls who are having prolonged periods coming to me with so much of local irritation that they have, and so this was simply avoided by taking off the irritant which is there. Some kind of chemical, that adsorbent that is put in these pads, kind of causes a lot of irritation to these kids, and whenever they're advised cotton pads, they are very much more comfortable after having a small treatment for whatever local irritation that they have. Then they don't generally redevelop it. And then of course there is this new thing that has come in, that is the menstrual cup. Of course, this has been, been on use for some time now, and these are available with a cost of around from, I think, ranging from 250 rupees. They are available up to 3,000 rupees, depending on the companies, brands, and types. So these are more eco-friendly, I should say, like when they are kept inside, and they just collect the menstrual blood inside the vagina, and they can just be poured out. As I think I have, they can be used up to 12 hours. I've just put in these in case it might be useful to some kids who are trying to use them. So generally you wash your hands thoroughly, and you can apply, just wet the cup little and tightly fold the cup, as you can see, and just put it inside, holding it one hand and just the rim up. And once you put it to the vagina and you can rotate it, it will spring open. Okay, and it will create a cup-like thing which will collect the menstrual blood inside. It will generally not be felt as an irritant, or it will not be felt as a discomfort generally. Okay, and once it's kept inside, it will collect after 12 hours. You can just again wash your hands and put in your thumb and vagina, pull out the stem from the base and just press it out and just empty, wash it and reuse it. It's a simple thing. It kind of removes the headache of disposal, okay, the napkins and all that. It can be tried if it is comfortable, depending on the personal choice, of course. Okay, so it can be tried and seen, and it is affordable and it is safer than tampons. Actually, tampons, if they are which are like some materials that can be kept inside the vagina, and if you leave a tampon for a long time, forgetting or something, there are severe, there are problems like toxic shock syndrome that we say. Okay, with infections going in and all that, so it can happen. Okay, and this is better for the environment. It's definitely eco-friendly. Okay, and it can be worn also with other things in place. Okay, of course, a slight irritation may be caused to some people. So depends. Again, you have to try and see if you can help. And then maintaining the hygiene at personal and community level, of course, how many need to be care. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Water cloths used and disposal, like you have to really, as we all know, it has to be like totally put in a proper bag and segregated from the vegetable or whatever waste we are throwing in the kitchen, the other solid waste. Because the disposal is seen everywhere with the pets, with the animals pulling it out from the dustbins and being scattered everywhere around. And it is such a sorry state of affairs to see when we are going. So disposal should be proper, and it should be in closed cabinets. Greatly, this sad reality, just like that, burning these pads and girls. Okay, and they are not very good. And of course, because of these, the open discarding of these pads, the waste handlers are at also increased risk. So is there a solution? Of course, there have been coming a lot of solutions around the country with there are electrical incinerators, there are natural eco-friendly incinerators that are coming in, and I think this has to be going in a big way. And one should be areas where they need to be disposed in this proper incinerators, where they are burned at a specific temperature which doesn't release these harmful gases outside. So I also wanted to stress on some common myths that go around, so that these little kids who are watching will get some benefit out of it. Like no one should feel that a normal menstrual cycle should come on the same date every month. It's a myth. For a myth, like an average can be 28 days, and it's a slightly shorter or longer can be normal, and you really need not worry if it comes 3 days earlier or 3 days late. It can still be just a normal cycle. And if my cycles get delayed, then probably my health is at risk. Again, that is a myth, I should say. Then what can happen is cycles can be irregular, of course, when there is a stress, okay, when there is illness, when you had fever last month, probably that cycle, you might not be getting your cycle, I mean, periods on the correct day which you were expected, or a day or two, it might be slightly delayed, or you had your exams, okay, you were stressed out due to some official work. And the other thing is you were totally sedentary, which I haven't done, totally sedentary, not moving because of the pandemic, before our exams, before whatever. Okay, you're totally sedentary. Your cycles can really be a little delayed, and you should not be really worrying about, and wait and make yourself more active and see that you come out of this, and then see whether you're getting it normally again. So we're not menstruating, and all bad blood is collecting inside, and we are gaining weight. So the fact is that the relation between weight and hormones is really complex. So it's not that they're gaining weight because of not menstruating, but see, cycles. But why are these hormones having in excess? So probably because of the weight that they've started to put on. So the fat that is there inside might cause some increase in the hormone levels in the body. So these fats which are increasing the hormone levels in the body ultimately causing on weight and the release of hormone and the irregularity of the menstruation. They can be interrelated, and it is not that only one leads to the other, but both are interrelated. Then that is when you wanted to stress, because people do very late after having excessive bleeding and during menopausal age group. Okay, so excessive bleeding is not to be taken in a lighter vein, especially in the perimenopausal age group, and delayed cycles can be normal, but excessive bleeding might be indicative of an underlying problem, okay, so which needs to be evaluated. So getting delayed cycles, okay, less frequent cycles can still be normal during menopause, that is getting one cycle in 2 months, and then a little lesser amount of flow, and all everything can be normal. But if excessively bleeding, yes, this is again cardio, yoga, and once then go ahead and do your exercises, but avoid intense cardio. Having excessive bleeding and really worried about it, then maybe she should avoid it. So actually exercise will help, practice of exercise, it will help relieve syndrome, pain during cycles, and intense workouts. Definitely, this has no scientific basis, but definitely has already been told by Mrs. Usha. Healthy foods, plenty of fluids can definitely feel make one feel more energized. And the burning topic now: avoid vaccine during cycles. Like most of
Srisha ma'am.
I'm sorry, I lost my connection.
Yes, ma'am. We're able to hear you now. Ma'am, can you try switching off the video, because there's...
No. Let me change my. Yeah, is it better now?
Yes, ma'am, we're able to hear you.
I'm sorry, where was I? I don't know where we lost the connection. I'm just one slide short. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, I think I'll switch off my video as you said. The one last thing I wanted to talk about is the vaccine and menstruation. And there is this common myth that you should avoid taking vaccine during cycles. And a lot of my nurses do come to me asking about whether they should be taking the vaccine during cycles and all. So the fact that we would like all of them to know is like there is no relevance of any menstrual cycle changes relating to vaccine. If any, it might be just stress related. So if you don't need to really stop taking vaccines during cycles, and there is no evidence of any lesser immune response during cycles. So they can definitely go ahead and take their vaccine if they are having their cycles. And finally, to conclude, of course, dignified menstruation is right, and menstrual hygiene management classes or educational material for young girls, especially rural areas, to increase awareness will help a lot in the long run. And menstrual waste management protocols, of course, have to be in place from the administrative side. I think that is it from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It was an absolutely enlightening session. It was a thoroughly organized speech, ma'am. I especially loved your pictorial representations. They stated the facts very clearly. Also, especially I loved the part where you had broken down the myths and the facts, because we are under the assumption that these are the facts. Proper menstrual dates, for example, they need not fall on the very same date the next month. So these are very widespread common assumptions. These are misconceptions, of course, very clearly stated, ma'am. Thank you all the panelists. So we are moving on to the question and answer session. All the participants can raise your hands if you want to participate directly, but there are a couple of questions that we had received through the email. So I'll just put forward to the panelists. So anybody or all of you can answer. So one question is, how important is it to form groups amongst us and spread the awareness regarding menstrual hygiene management? So this question is about the importance of forming groups and discussing menstruation in general. So
Extremely important, I would say.
yes, sir.
It's extremely important to educate people. It's extreme. That's why, the work that organizations like yours are doing are phenomenal in terms of raising the awareness levels that are there. So it's through talks, it's through these videos, it's through the YouTube channel that you have, or the Instagram page that is there constantly. It is important that every young girl, every woman in India is given proper and medical, not like Shrisha said, that not the myths part of it, but the real medical facts about this. And of course, the social aspects also need to be dealt with. So medico-culturally, you need to address this issue.
Yes. Yes, that is very true, sir. So we have another question. why is it important to dispose the sanitary products properly? So I'm just trying to jot down the questions that have much relevance and that seem to be really important. So this particular question, I found it to be very important that we discuss it. So why is it very important to dispose the used sanitary pads properly? Because we seldom talk about this, I think.
I think Srisha is more qualified to
this?
answer that question.
Yeah, it is very important, as Dr. Sirisha also mentioned. It is,
I've put these slides in.
I think that would help.
Ma'am, we did not hear you properly. Can you please come again?
Yeah, so when it comes to menstrual management, I always prefer using eco-friendly, be it cloth or cloth pads, as mentioned by Dr. Sirisha, and also the menstrual cups that are coming up nowadays. So these three options are my choices because they are more eco-friendly, good for the skin, and good for the the person who is using it. Because about the the pads, sanitary pads that are there in the market, they come with some chemical bases and they're not eco-friendly. They take long years to dissolve. Yeah, and also, as mentioned by Dr. Sirisha, they're scattered everywhere and the animals tend to eat them, and it is hazardous to their health and their life. So considering all these aspects, it is important, whatever type of mode you're using, it is very, very important to dispose them. I really love the slide that Dr. Sirisha showed, how to dispose it. So it is really enlightening. And as I said, I prefer the more natural and ancient methods of doing it.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
I think there's a very nice movement on social media that was started a couple of years ago called Red Dot. So even the municipal corporation people who come to pick up the garbage and all, there also at that level also segregation should happen, and we need to teach the mothers especially need to teach their daughters in terms of how to dispose it, and if you can just put it into the newspaper and put that red dot on it, and even the now garbage collectors know that okay, this is something that has to be handled differently.
True.
Exactly. Most of the times the sanitary workers, they end up handling the used sanitary pads using their bare hands, which is really pathetic, which should not be the case at all. The next question is,
my mother always used to tell me when I use the sanitary pads. Now, for many years I'm using cloth pads for environmental reasons and also my own health. So whenever we use sanitary pads, she used to tell me not to throw it out just like that. Wash it thoroughly, wrap it in a newspaper, and then throw it. So it's very important that we wash it and throw it, not just throw it like that, the used one.
Yes. As young, this is the next question. As young girls, we all are undergoing kind of mental health disturbances. How do we address this issue on a larger scale? This is with regard to the younger generation. So the kind of mental stress, the health disturbances that they undergo, how do we cope up with them?
So like Srisha rightly said, there are various causes that happen because of which the cycle gets disturbed, and one of the major cause is stress-related issues. So let it be exam stress, work stress, whatever it is stress that you're going through. Please get into some kind of activity to de-stress yourself. Fix a certain number of hours per day in which you can de-stress yourself, or per week you can de-stress yourself. The easiest and simplest and most cost-effective way to de-stress yourself is to pick up a habit, pick up a hobby, sorry. Create a habit of a hobby. Okay, and make that hobby also something which is interesting. So get into something like painting or dancing or music or whatever it could be. Okay, hobbies are the biggest stress busters today. But unfortunately, the younger generation's biggest hobby today is Netflix, Hotstar, OTT platforms. Okay, they're just lying around in bed and they're just watching these what is typically called binging. So the OTT binging happens, and hours and hours and hours you're just lethargically lying there in bed. So one of the other hobbies that you can pick up is simply going for a walk every morning. It's very helpful. So create some kind of stress freeing activity. Get into mindfulness. After every maybe 35-40 minutes, walk for 5 minutes in the house. These small things can help you de-stress yourself. And the less amount of stress you take on physically, mentally also, the stress also is reduced a lot. And it helps in regularizing a lot of other activities. And of course, like Usha, the expert, has already given tips on how to get into some kind of yoga and meditation and pranayam kind of activities. Well, definitely they help you in these all. One of the simple tricks or tips that I would like to give on mental health is, please understand a concept called as sphere of influence. Okay, this is a management tool that we use in therapy also. Now, you can Google it up also. I'll just very quickly give you what it is. So ask yourself the simple question, is this in my control or is it not in my control? So for example, just on the lighter side, should India go to war with China? Well, is it in my control? Absolutely not. Then why worry about it? Okay. Is it in my control or is it not in my control? This is what we talk in terms of sphere of control. So if it is in your control, then you have two choices, whether to worry about it or to deal with it. So if you're just going to worry about it, well, you're going to build up stress, you're going to build up those things and they're going to affect your body. But if you are going to deal with it, if you're going to face those challenges, deal those challenges, then definitely it is going to help you overcome those challenges and overcome those stress. So please understand that there is nothing you can do about things which are not under your control. So worrying about COVID-19, it's not under your control. Okay, what is under your control is following protocols. 6 feet distance, double masking, and not going out. That is in your control. Please follow that. If people follow what is in their control, then there is no need to stress out. There's no need to worry and no need to create any harm to your mind and body.
So I think you absolutely